Hello everyone, my name is Gabby, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super review, this time reviewing episode 104. Hit is fighting against Dispo from Universe 11, who manages to use the brief delay Hit has when preparing a time skip to outspeed him and deal damage. While Hit tries to strategize, he soon gets overwhelmed when Universe 11's Kunshi steps in to help, only being saved by Goku arriving at the last minute. With the odds evened out, the two make quick work of Universe 11, with Kunshi taking the loss so Dispo could escape safely. There are only 3 members of Universe 11 left, and Toppo says he's done being the hero. So, what did I like about this episode? Well, first of all, I did really enjoy the fight between Hit and Dispo. It was sort of like a strategy battle. Dispo had a strategy that was sort of hearing Hit's movements and basically trying to be able to predict when he was going to use the time skip, and he used that strategy to try and counter Hit. And then when Hit realized that, Hit made his own strategy, which was basically pretty much feinting, pretending like he would do a time skip, and because of that, then he would basically know exactly what Dispo was going to do, and then he would basically counterattack and get a free hit in. And so it was like, you had one strategy and you had another strategy, and it kind of sort of made sense as to how, basically both of them were sort of adapting, or basically it was really more just that Hit managed to adapt and Dispo was basically too set on his way so he couldn't adapt, and that's why he lost. It was a fun fight. And they brought in some of the weird kind of assassination-y sort of techniques that Hit used on Goku in their rematch in episode, I think 71 and 72, I think it is. And that was kind of interesting. That was the kind of continuity nod that I wasn't expecting they were going to do. Or at least, I was kind of surprised that they would actually do that until I looked at it and I realized that the Goku Hit rematch in those few episodes of the Slice of Life filler and this episode were written by the same guy. So maybe it's not that surprising that they kind of wanted to reference almost their own works, but still, for a bunch of episodes that happen in between 2 arcs that you weren't really expecting were ever going to come up again, it's fun to see that. And those episodes were pretty interesting. So it was nice to see. And in all honesty, I enjoyed basically all of the kind of Universe 6 contestants this episode. Basically all of their sort of interactions. It was clear from pretty much everyone that they all really kind of respected Hit, and Hit was pretty important to all of them. He's really strong, he seems to be really good at strategy, he's very experienced, and it's sort of like everyone really wanted to make sure that he was there until the end, and they kind of all sort of followed him. We had Caulifla and Kale just kind of sitting there watching, and Caulifla kind of wanting to sort of step in when it looked like Hit was going to be in danger. And then we also have Champa. Can I just go and mention that Vuvuzela joke with Champa was basically amazing? Champa starts off by randomly wanting a Vuvuzela out of the blue, and then a few scenes later he actually has the Vuvuzela, and then a few scenes later he actually plays the Vuvuzela, and it was just such a great joke, and the more I think about it, the funnier it gets. So yeah, just that. As for what I didn't like about this episode, well, first of all, while it was fun to have Goku there and Goku sort of saving the day and Goku and Hit actually fighting alongside each other instead of fighting against each other for the first time ever, it also kind of made me realize that Goku kind of didn't really need to be there. Don't get me wrong, somebody needed to be there to even out the odds and to make sure that Hit was going to be able to survive being ganged up on, but it didn't necessarily need to be Goku. I know I am the person who has pretty much been saying that throughout a lot of these episodes it's probably really important to have a core focus on the members in Universe 7, so we're not going to get confused and we're not going to have fights between characters we literally don't really care about at all. But the fact is, with the events of this episode, Universe 6, and especially Hit, are perhaps some of the few characters where you don't necessarily need to have a connection with some of the main characters for us to legitimately care about them. We have reason to care about Universe 6. We've seen them. We've seen Hit since the start of the Universe 6 tournament, which was over a year ago. We know quite a bit about Hit. I feel like people do actually care about Hit. I feel like we didn't necessarily need Goku in there to go and try and make us care about the characters where we kind of already care about the characters. This is one of those situations where I think that actually no, I actually might have preferred it if they did just have Caulifla go and step in instead. Universe 6 and Universe 6 teaming up together. I feel like that would have really helped sort of sell the story and sell the idea that Universe 6 are actually kind of very close-knit and connected more than just kind of having Goku here again, because it almost feels like they don't want to have an episode without Goku for some reason. Speaking of Goku, in this episode, he reveals that he can still use Super Saiyan God. And disregarding the fact that I still don't feel like they gave a really, really good explanation as to why Goku has never used Super Saiyan God until now, other than just, well, since it's not as strong as Blue, why wouldn't he? The fact is, with this sort of addition to his arsenal in the anime as well now, it means that Goku has now gotten yet another form that is only really defined in comparison comparison to its other forms, it doesn't really have an identity of its own. Super Saiyan God is faster than Super Saiyan and less draining than Super Saiyan Blue, and that's about it. That seems to be all it really has in terms of unique qualities throughout this entire rest of the story. I'm not going to say this doesn't make sense or it's kind of stupid. In fact, it's honestly kind of the opposite. The reason why I think I kind of had an issue when this sort of popped up in the manga, and I think it's still the same issue, is it kind of just feels like it's overcomplicating things. Why does Goku need all these sort of intermediary forms that he only uses when the context requires it? Is this basically Super's version of power scaling, that you work it out how strong guys are by what form Goku uses? But what's the point of Goku even using all these random intermediary forms in the first place? Things used to be so simple, you know? A character would start out untransformed, and then when the opponent revealed they're actually pretty powerful, then the character would transform into their strongest form, because of course they transform into their strongest form. Why wouldn't they transform into their strongest form if they want the best chance they could possibly get? That's kind of how it always worked in the original series, and as far as I can remember, any example that proves otherwise was probably like anime filler. And I think there's a reason as to why Toriyama did it like that. It made things very simple and easy to understand. Whereas in this arc, it kind of feels like every time Goku goes into a battle, he has this sort of off-screen internal monologue of like, well, judging by how strong my opponent is, and how much time there is left until the end of the tournament, and how much stamina I have, I'm gonna say that I think it'll be the most productive choice this time for me to use form 5 out of 6.5. And then I'm gonna go to form 6 out of 6.5 when I go and use my really powerful attacks, and that's what's gonna work best for this situation. Like, why does the mere act of transforming have to require seemingly like 5 different mental hoops that you're never actually going to tell us anyway? This didn't used to be so complicated, guys. I don't know if it's like you think that the fact that Goku didn't use older forms was some kind of flaw in the original series, but I don't think it was really a flaw that needed to be fixed, because your alternative here is just making things really kind of just really confusing. So as for next episode, well, it looks like it's gonna be the Muten Roshi's chance to shine, because he's going off and facing off against a whole bunch of opponents from Universe 4. You know, there's a lot of things about Dragon Ball Super where I wouldn't actually believe you if I said that this was going to happen, but I think at this point having an episode dedicated to Kame-sen and fighting a whole bunch of guys through his own power and actually seeming to be kind of successful in it is one of those things I would have told you was never actually going to happen. But that's the arc we're in now, that's the story that we're in now, and it is going to be very interesting to see how they handle it. I also do hope that if they put some gags in about sexual humor, it will be done a bit better than they did it the last Roshi episode, because that one was not done very well, let's just put it that way. So that was Dragon Ball Super episode 104. Basically, I really enjoyed everything except for the Goku parts. It's actually weird. You know, normally when people talk about how annoyed they get when Goku kind of steals the attention and steals the spotlight and steals the kills from other characters, I don't normally get upset about it, but this episode I did kind of find a little bit griping. Maybe just because of the format of the tournament, but I feel like this was an episode where at the very least it would have been at least more satisfying to see Hit actually fight on his own and succeed on his own without having Goku kind of show up there feeling almost obligatory and showing up with a new form that feels almost obligatory. Well, not a new form, an old form, but you know what I mean. And feeling like Super Saiyan God Goku being in this episode was just kind of some kind of quota as opposed to something that was actually a fun story. So basically, the Hit stuff was great. The Universe 6 stuff was great. The Universe 11 stuff was also pretty good. The Goku stuff didn't really need to be there, and I honestly kind of feel like it distracted my attention. But that was really the only thing that I kind of had a gripe with, and everything else was honestly pretty fun. I do wonder how they're going to handle the rest of Universe 11. It seems less and less likely that they're just going to do that thing which everyone was expecting, where somebody was going to job to Jiren to show how powerful Jiren was. It honestly just seems more like they're just going to be like a legitimate fight where all of these characters are going to be fighting off at once when we start getting to like kind of the most important guys and all of the fodder is going to be eliminated. But obviously there are still a whole bunch of universes where it seems like there are kind of fodder members to go, and I do wonder how much longer that's going to take, but considering not everyone in Universe 7 has essentially gotten a character-focused episode or has really done anything significant in the tournament so far, we might have a little bit more to go until that actually happens. But I am going to be interested to see how it's going to go, and Champa playing a Vuvuzela was the best thing ever, let me just remind you that. So this is Gabby, signing out, and I'll see you all next week. Bye guys!